Council chambers and members of the public present in the council chambers. Today is Monday, April 22nd, 2024, and this is the City of Romulus City Council Special Meeting Study Session. This meeting is to discuss the proposed 24-25 fiscal year city budgets. At this time, we'll have roll call. Councilwoman Abdo. Here. Councilman Barden. Here. Councilwoman Roscoe. She's indicated that she is late.
Yeah, she'll be here.
So noted. Councilwoman Talley.
Here.
Councilman Wadsworth.
Here.
Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
And Councilman Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Chair, there is a quorum for tonight's special meeting.
Thank you.
The special meeting agenda is as follows. Number 1, roll call. 2, agenda. 3, discussion, the proposed 24-25 fiscal year city budgets. Number 4 is public comment. Number 5 is adjournment. A motion would be in order to accept tonight's special meeting agenda as presented.
So moved to accept the special meeting agenda as presented.
Support. The motion by Ms. Talley, supported by Mr. Wadsworth, to accept the special study session agenda as presented. Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Thank you, City Council. We are now in discussion. To lead tonight's discussion is our Finance Director, Maria Ferris.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, elected officials, administrative staff present. Today we are going to this study session is being held to discuss the fiscal year 24-25 budget. We're first going to go into the general fund and start there. The handouts, we will follow that as along with the screen with Dijon. There is going to be the highlights of the general fund. I'm going to talk about the local major roads and also water and sewer. So on the first page of your handouts, there is the general fund revenues. For some highlights of property taxes, we are estimating at $10 million. Also to the projected taxable value numbers, overall increase by 5% for this budget year. Property tax revenues are anticipated to slightly increase as a result of the taxable value. Administrative charges and other charges were reviewed as we do every budget year, analyzed for accuracy with adjustments made to reflect for the appropriate changes. Up on the screen right now, we do see the general fund, but there are handouts too. Just elaborating on a little bit more of this summary page. There's a lot of numbers up there. So, state revenue sharing is estimated to increase slightly. Also within the general fund, we are expecting that the FUF and special fees for the court, they're going to remain flat. However, these fees are collected to pay just for the bond debt only. Also in the general fund, fines and forfeits revenues have stayed consistent with the audited numbers. So for fiscal year 22-23, just the fines and forfeits that come into the general fund were $113,654. We're estimating $100,000 for fiscal year 23-24, and as well as for 24-25. However, we are optimistically anticipating this revenue to increase. Investment earnings within the general fund have shown an increase, and these are monitored closely to indicate future trends. Also in the general fund, building licenses and permits have showed a significant increase, and that is attributing to all the new development within the city. Also, during our budgeting process, all the departments meet, and we make sure to thoroughly review fees associated with the services provided. Also, during the budget process, finance will review the cost of auditing services, which is Plant Moran, for each fund, make sure that there's reallocation, reorganizing, and making sure that we take into account for the rate of inflation and other charges out to funds accordingly. The taxes, property and liability insurance, currently right now we're under review of the whole renewal. It doesn't align with the whole budget process. However, it's anticipated about a 5% increase. Also, every year during the budgeting process, we look at the retiree healthcare cost, OPEB cost, and these are completed for each department based on the current active employees who are eligible to receive retiree health care benefits upon retirement. Motor vehicle rental rates were adjusted on essential capital needs of the Department of Public Services, and we always watch and continue to watch our fleet as our aging. Technology services and rental rates have been adjusted accordingly to reflect department software, equipment, and services. Also, for the general fund, we always look at the budget to actual. So in fiscal year 23-24, the general fund expenses are anticipated to fall under the amended budget. Also in 23-24, the general fund revenues are anticipated to increase, so that is good. So the increase of the revenue is the building permits and the new development. Within the general fund, the general fund balance remains consistent and stable. The standard and best practice for a community should maintain a minimum fund balance of 20 to 25%. Currently, right now, the city's fund balance is at around approximately 37%. So we are in alignment with the best practices. As the budget is presented in the proposed at 24-25, if it's adopted as presented, we would have an approximate fund balance of $9.3 million.
Can you stop for a minute?
In the handouts,
Just a minute, I have a question.
Where are you at? Because is you still on the same screen, or,
I'm on the handouts.
so what page?
You should be on page 7.
It's on page numbers.
No page numbers. I'm looking at this.
Okay.
Okay. So on page 7 of the general fund balance,
Thank you.
that takes us to the next slide, which is the general fund unassigned fund balance and 5-year history. So we can see, and these are audited numbers from Plant Moran showing each year our unassigned. That means we can use it for expenses that are not assigned. So 2018 and 19, it's 4.9, 19 to 20, 6.5, and each year after that, it's increasing. There's a slight, you'll see, and this is just our projected, we're supposed to have 9.3 for the current fiscal year, if the budget is presented as adopted as presented. That's pretty much the highlights for the general fund. The general fund in our prelim is pages 9 through 61. The purpose of giving the highlights is the general fund does house a lot of information, a lot of revenues, and a lot of expenses. Are there any questions regarding review?
Chair.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes, the general fund balance that is projected for next year, how is that rated in terms of,
That would be 37.5%.
I realize
Are you saying
that,
regarding to fund balance?
yes.
Yes, 37%.
I was looking for more like a chart. You have this screen up. All of this is a bunch of words. I'm not, I mean, and you're, nothing personally, but you're going so fast with what you're saying.
Okay.
I'm trying to follow you.
So is there any questions on the handout that you would like me to
A
discuss?
lot of questions.
Okay.
Like, I wanted to see numbers like for each department. Where is that at? Is that in here?
That was just the highlights. We're gonna segue onto that now, and it's gonna be on your screen. So
Okay.
we'll go through that next, okay?
Appreciate it.
I just wanted to give like some of the major highlights for general fund.
I was scared you were finished.
Oh, no, that's just for the general fund.
Okay,
There's a lot of revenues and expenses to be covered.
okay.
I have a couple quick questions, Mr. Barton.
Yes, Ms. Talley?
Just a couple quick clarifications. It says for the projected taxable value, 5% increase. What is behind, what are we thinking that 5% is coming from? Where is that increase coming from?
So that is a standard. The standard, it cannot exceed 5%.
That it had increased every year?
Correct. We cannot exceed 5%.
Okay, so we just project that.
We are at 5% for this year.
Okay. And then for the 9,000,003, it's a bit lower than previous years. I know we're at 37%, but what causes that dip?
There's a few factors,
Okay.
personnel, inflation. inflation, cost of
Okay.
materials,
Okay,
contracts. We
Okay.
do have 1.2 million for the court
okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
for operational costs.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Proceed.
So here is the general fund, it's on your screen. And that was the synopsis if I was giving all the revenues and expenses. On your screen, you'll see that our estimated revenues are 20 million, our expenses are 24, and that's aligned with all of the other expenses, increases, the court being inside of that number of the 1.2, contracts being negotiated. So there's a slight increase with appropriations, but we are still at a 9.3, which is a good, healthy fund balance to absorb those costs. And as well as in the 9.3, that's just an estimated projected. Some of the revenues come in higher and some of the expenses come in lower. Potentially it would be increased. So that takes us on to the special revenue. There's no questions? Okay, so currently on our screen, we have the fund summary here. This is for major roads. And Ms. Williams, this is a synopsis of the revenues and expenses for major roads. However, I'm going to give some other information supporting this slide. Let's see. So the Act 51, which comes into major and local roads that helps support the roads, we're showing a slight increase this year of 6.5%. Also, transfers from major roads and local roads are showing an increase, and that's in accordance to PA 51 in our road system and our cap asset report. Also, in our current budget for major and local roads, and this is just in the local roads, the paving project will continue for 24-25, and an estimated of $1.6 million in repairs to our local roads. These projects are determined based on road conditions and available resources. Also, too, in local roads, we'll start the Ronald Reconstruction Project in fiscal 24-25. 203, which is our major roads, we have two large projects for fiscal year 24-25, and it is the Grant Road Reconstruction and Osgo Road Resurfacing. On our screen here this is for local roads, major roads, and these are the snapshots of all the information that I just gave you. Any questions? Okay. Continue on into the components. Okay. So the component units are the brownfield, the DDA, and also to TIFA. All of the information is on the screen here. We're starting with the brownfield, so the revenues and expenses are up here. If there's any questions, if not, I'll go on to DDA. Okay.
Wait just a minute.
Any question?
Go back for a minute. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not me. Who has the question?
Oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Virginia.
You said, go back to the brownfield.
Okay.
So the total estimate of the brownfield is 5,000, a little over 5,000?
For the property tax revenue, yes,
That's the revenue.
correct.
Wow. What makes that so low?
I'm going to defer to Julie. Do you want to talk on the brownfield, please?
Good evening.
Good evening.
The money that's coming into the brownfield is taxes, a portion of the taxes paid over at, used to be PacSpec Packaging, I think it's Welch Packaging now at 8111 Middle Belt. they elected to take advantage of the eligible manufacturing personal property exemption, which significantly reduced the amount of taxes they pay at the local level,
Okay.
which then impacts the revenue to the brownfield.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, it looks pretty low. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
I'm fine, thank you. That's sort of answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. So the next is the DDA. We have our revenues at 576,280, and our expenses and appropriations at 1 million. We do have an ending fund balance of 316,000.
So we're down.
Any questions? Then I can move on. If not. Okay, and then we have our TIF district.
Stopper.
Question?
Yes.
How many properties are included in the DDA?
I'm going to defer to Jerry Fryer.
I can definitely get back with you on it, but I believe there's like maybe 300 DDA properties in the district. Maybe, am I, Julie? It's right in that realm of numbers. We just sold a couple, but I mean, they're still in the district, so but there's like 317, I believe.
About 317?
Yes.
And what area does that cover? I know.
So it covers from right around this area right here, from like Goddard and Vining, going all the way to right around Captain Nemo's and the old Irvingham Clinic is where it cuts off, but then it goes through the downtown district, the properties in there on, north and the south road, and then east and west when you hit the curve. Because it even goes out to the car wash and like the urban rituals and stuff there as well.
So where do it start at Goddard Road? Goddard and Wayne?
Well, it picks up right here at Goddard and Vining, right back here, and goes all the way through till Captain Nemo's at 5 Points there.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, and it starts right back in
John?
past City Hall.
Mr. Wadsworth?
If I can, some of these propities are residential too,
That
aren't
is
they?
correct, yes.
Is
It's a
there-
mixture.
Is there any advantage to the residents that live in a DDA property zone?
I don't know if there's so much an advantage to them, you know what I mean? They get the, the cleanup and the streetscape down there, the DDA does pay for that. I mean, they still cut their own grass, but I mean, as far as the banners and the streetscape,
Okay,
there's
all right,
no
fine.
charge, to them, but I mean.
Thank you.
it's- Yeah, we try to keep it beautified and cleaned up down there.
Yeah, if I can get a list of all.
Yep, I can
didn't realize-
actually email you a map.
Okay.
Yep, not a problem. I'll email all you guys a map so you'll have it. Yes, not a problem.
Thank
I can
you.
do that tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Also in our, thank you, Jerry. Also in our component units is the TIFA district. It's currently on your screen. The revenues are 7.7. And also we are showing appropriations of $4.5 million. Any questions regarding TIF?
Yes.
Question?
So the taxes that's collected is the 7 million, a little over 7 million?
Yes, and that potentially can change too, but yes. These are estimates.
And the actual dollar amount that's spent out of the TIFA district is the 4.5?
Correct.
That's it? Okay. I'm just trying to follow.
No, yeah, correct, yeah, I'm with you.
So if I could, just quickly, total appropriations, every time I see a negative connotation, it's negative 70.13%, correct?
Correct, so that's just
Expound
saying-
upon that, please.
So what that is basically stating is the appropriations, as we're measuring it from last year, from the projected to this year, is down by 70% in expenses. So, for example, last year, they probably had some large projects that we are accounting for, and this year, if you see, we'll just say we're projecting 15 million, and this year we're saying we're at 4.5 million. So there's projects in the works that have not been completed. What is budgeted for this year, and what we're requesting is new projects coming on.
Okay.
John.
Please.
Yes, and also I would like to see how many actual businesses are that's also in the Tiffin district.
On the TIF district, the businesses? Just businesses? Okay.
Well, anything that's in the Tiffin district, I would like to see that.
Okay. Okay, if no other questions, we'll move forward into our debt service funds. So we can start with our court building, our debt service funds. We're expecting around 1 million in revenues. That is between the FUP and special fees that is collected, that is specifically and only allowable for our bond debt. Okay? And also to our debt service is 1,044,720. We will see that we're using a slight amount of fund balance, and that's just solely to cover the bond payment. We are still having a residual ending fund balance projected at 154,000. Okay. Next is Vining Road. We're expecting 1 million, a little bit over 1 million in revenues, and as well as we have just our debt service in there, which is a little bit.
About the court. Yeah, about the court.
Okay.
Where is it, what document did we as a city sign? I understand that we're responsible for the building, because it's a city building, but what agreement do we have that we are paying for the court employees' insurance and whatever else we're paying? What is that agreement?
I'll defer to the mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
I can answer that for you if you want, through the chair.
Yes, go ahead, Mayor.
Through the IGA, when the court was, came to fruition and created, that's when the IGA was created that says host community is responsible for operational costs. At that time, again, they've never saw the shortfall we have now, and again, it's a statewide issue. I can't, talk about that enough, but since we're on the topic, we are also scheduling a meeting with all 5 communities to make sure they know, because this is not sustainable, right? So we've worked with the court. They've cut 30% of their staff. They've worked with some other savings over there. But we're projecting to be a $1.2 million shortfall to cover that. But the things that council has put in place, as far as hiring more police officers, bringing fines and forfeitures up, the biggest drop over there has been revenues, and that was because of police officers in Romulus during COVID, rightfully so, weren't issuing citations, so we saw a big drop. So not only are we working on our issues on our end to hire more police officers to offset that, but also working with the rest of the communities as well to make sure that they have the facts, they know what's going on here. So we'll be having that meeting soon, and then we're going to meet with 34th District Court again and the State Court Administrator to find out statewide how they're handling these issues. We also had a meeting last week with 35th District Court out in Northfield to find out what they were doing and how they were, building bridges to cross these gaps. So we're looking under every stone because, like you said, the $1.2 million in subsidizing court operations is not sustainable. We got to find a way to get around that and address it in a different manner. So we're going to continue to look for answers for it.
Yeah, because the document that was presented, if I'm not mistaken, if I can remember, it was said that they reduced the employees, but the actual expense went up, and I didn't understand that. So that definitely need to be explained, because if you have less employees, why is the expenses higher? Was it salary increases given? It's no explanation, that document. So that before, in my opinion, before it comes back and is finalized, that needs to be cleared up. Because you can't just throw a bunch of numbers out there and say that it's less employees. And also, I have a question that, Mayor, you can present to the judge. Do we still have the court workers where they go out, like on the weekends, and clean up trash? Because I haven't seen that.
No, unfortunately not. They're working to bring that program back. It seems like Lansing's putting in policies and also changes in legislation. It seems to me, in my opinion, remove the ability of the court to enforce this law. So they're working right now to bring that back. They're in conversations right now with the other communities to bring the work. That way, people who can't pay the fines and forfeit, they have another way to pay them.
Right,
so they're trying to come up with some solutions there, but most communities that went away, and we're trying to work with the chief judge right now to bring it back, so stay tuned on more for that.
Well, I just noticed in that document that was presented, it showed as if that program was still in effect. So, you know, I just want, because I hadn't seen it like maybe in the last maybe 6 months, maybe longer. So if it's not in operation, then it shouldn't be included as that's part of their debt. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ms. Abdo.
Yeah, I had concerns when I saw what the court gave us. And my concern is if they are giving salary increases over there, since we are the ones that are paying it, shouldn't they be in line with what our workers are getting? Or aren't getting?
I can convey that message to the court to make sure they know and try to get an answer for you out of them.
All right, because if we're paying it, it should be in line with city employees, as far as I'm concerned.
Any other questions? Proceed.
Okay, moving on to the E-course and Vining Road. Revenues are 1 million, expenses are at 1 million, and that's just for the debt service. Our next fund is 352, which is our capital improvement bonds. So it's pretty constant the same. We have the revenues coming in and then the appropriations of $110,000. And that just helps support bond debt payments. The next fund is Fund 392, which is a sewer debt service. There's monies collected, and this helps support the water and sewer fund. We do an annual transfer to the water and sewer fund where we are expecting about $95,000 in revenues, and we would be transferring out to the water and sewer fund $200,000. The next is the water debt service. This also does
I have a
support the
question,
water.
another-
Yes.
So we're collecting 95, but we're paying out 200,000.
Well, it's only supporting the water debt. So on that, it's a collection when you pay a fee, and that goes specifically into the sewer debt service.
So that's where the additional 105 is coming from? The charges from the fees, late fees? Is that what it is, late fees?
This is, this debt service just collects fees for like pulling permits.
Okay.
We collect that revenue, okay. And this just supports the water and sewer. This is-
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the next is the water debt service, and this is similar as well as the water, the sewer. We collect these charges, and these are pulled through permits, and then as well as these monies collected help support the water and sewer fund. So budgeting, and it was aligned with last year's of $60,000. Our next is our capital project funds. We have the court construction fund, which is still open, and this can also to help support the bond payment. So we're expecting about $5,000 interest and potentially supporting $200,000 for the bond debt payment if there's a shortfall. We just need to budget for it just in case. And also $58,000 too is budgeted for a project for the vet monument.
58, wait. Excuse me, John.
Go ahead.
You say only 58,000?
Just out of the court construction fund.
So what is that total amount for the veteran monument?
Here, do you want to talk about that? Approximately about 108
Okay,
plus the 58.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes, Mr. Wadsworth.
Talking about the court, are they paying like they promised for the construction, or are we dipping into some of our funds?
We are not, no. So in the collection, which comes into 302, which is just for the debt service,
Okay.
the money, which is the special fees and the FUF, has been collected in enough to pay for the bond debt.
Okay, so it's not
We have
in,
not dipped into those.
it's not dipping into our funds to make that payment?
Correct. No.
Thank you.
Hold on, John. So it's the 58 that's there already, and then additional 108?
No. Is it total 108? I apologize, it's a total of 108. So it's 58 that was, so when the building was, the whole budget, it was 58,000, this is original, and then 50,000 from the city.
Okay.
I apologize.
Maybe that's the problem, we not getting any bids, because that seemed, but, you know, to rebuild that project, especially since the time frame has went, everything is so much more expensive, seemed kind of low for that amount to rebuild what was taken down.
Well, through the chair, the contractors aren't even aware of what we have budgeted for it, so they're still just not bidding because, well, there's a lot of reasons I go into, and Gary continues to make it a priority to find somebody, but it's not because of the money that we have, because they don't even know what we have set aside for the monument. We're just having trouble getting bids, you know, in its entirety. But we'll continue to work on it.
So the next is the Vining Road E-Course construction. We're expecting 30,000 in revenue for an interest in rents, and then also too, this is help supporting the bond debt payment. Oh, I apologize. Also to any other project costs within that fund. The next is 406, which is the tip of Vining Road construction. These are the proceeds that are left for the bond issuance. We're expecting around $400 in interest and rents, and then around $49,000 for any residual cost for the project for capital outlay. There's no questions. We'll move on to the water and sewer fund. In your handout, I'm going to refer to the handout because the water and sewer fund will have it on the screen. However, there's some budget information I'd like to share with you, and it is on. It's.
The pages aren't numbered, so I'm not sure what you,
I apologize.
I don't have any numbers here.
So it starts at the enterprise fund, so if you go to the enterprise,
All right.
then after the enterprise, go to the very next page.
Okay, got it.
Through the chair, just to clarify, if you look in that shaded stripe to the right, the page number's on the bottom of that. It's in the shaded area, it makes it hard to read.
I think it picks up around page 9. Prior to that, it's hard, they don't have no number though.
Thank you,
Oh.
Mayor, I didn't even realize.
Thank you, I see it, yeah, got you, okay, thank you.
Yep.
There it is.
So is that 15?
So now we're on 15. So on your screen, we have the function summary and the fund summary of this. However, I just wanted to highlight some. In the water and sewer fund.
Next page, 15.
Are we all set? We're on that page? Okay. So last year, in 23-24, we completed the water rate study by Plant Moran. Also, too, some other highlights. So for fiscal year 24-25, there is an increase in expenditures for fixed costs within the water and sewer fund, and this is solely to maintain current assets and operations. Also, too, the lead service line investigation project, which is state mandated, this is still ongoing. GLWA sent out their rates, and they sent out and they're having an average system-wide increase of 3.25%. DUA right now does not have their rates out. They should be later, maybe in June. However, they're projecting a double-digit system 24-25 increase, and that's just to maintain the system.
So how would that affect the city of Romulus?
Once I get those increases from the DUA board, then I will present to the council. But I sit on the finance committee for DUA, and they don't have the rates out yet.
What about the Great Lake Water Authority?
They're at 3.25%.
Oh, that's
And
the-
that's a system-wide increase.
Will that pass on to,
Yes,
The consumer?
yes. Also, too, in our water system, we have the Rouge Valley water system, and I do not have their rates yet either. So they're currently, their board has not approved them either. So I wait till they submit them to me, and then I will bring them to council and let you know.
this 3.25 increase from the Great Lake Water Authority, how is our, the water fund set up? Can it carry that, or?
So there is a couple components to calculating the rates. It's a little preliminary right now because I don't have DUA's rates. However, the information I received from GLWA is they're saying that the average wide system is 3.25. So once we bring to council the rates, there's many components to calculating the rates. So I don't want to say how much it's going to be just for an increase, but any of the increases are passed along to the user, and then, it's just an exchange for rates. That's the maintain, there's the water, there's a couple components of that.
So who allows them? Is the state still regulating this? Because the water is expensive enough.
So
And
GLWA is an authority.
I
So they do
understand.
have, so I don't want to say the state oversees them. They're an authority, they have meetings. I don't want to speak too much on them, but they do have their annual meetings. They give their information, and they do have a board that oversees them.
Yeah, if I can get that information, like when they have their meetings, because they need, I know in Detroit, they speak a lot about the ridiculous amounts of what they're charging for water. We need to speak on behalf of our residents, because if we're looking to, especially with the DUWA, if they haven't gave you the increase, Great Lake Water Authority already gave it, and you're talking about balancing it out and what it would. It might be a disaster. So we need to try to look in that before it even come to that point. Instead of you presenting us the council amount that we would have to approve to increase the resident water rate, what can we do before we even get to that point? That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Also too, on page 16, talking about the EPA levy bonds, there will be no taxes levied in 24-25. The taxes are expected to return in 25-26. However, the continuities obligation bonds are paid off, so we're estimated date is fiscal year 27-28. In the water and sewer fund, we will currently start the Inkster Road water main replacement. The estimated cost of this project is $3.2 million. The sewer debt fund, as I mentioned before, this will align, and this will show you that the sewer debt fund will make a contribution of $200,000, and that's to help support projects, as well as the water debt fund will make a contribution of $60,000, and that helps support water and sewer fund.
So, through the chair, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Are we, on the water and sewer fund, are we replacing, it's like lead pipe, replacing with what? With the water
So I'm going to defer to
main
Roberto.
replacement? Pardon me?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure.
I'm going to refer to Roberto.
Oh, I'm sorry,
CG,
Roberto, sure.
And have him come up and talk.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hey, Roberto,
Good evening.
how you doing?
So what was the question?
The replacement, are we replacing lead pipes?
Yeah, we
Is this
are
what
replacing lead water service lines.
Yes.
We're replacing them at 5% a year. That's kind of like a milestone that the state of Michigan has with all communities. So it helps us kind of, track our budget and cost effectively manage our budget until there's something greater, maybe a grant or something like that, to help pay for, citywide replacing them all. Now, most communities don't know exactly where all the lead service lines are. You have to go back to records, and if the records showed where a lead service line was, or if it delineated that it was lead, then that's how you would know, or you gotta go out in the field and actually dig them up. We have a program where we got $500,000 to go citywide and dig up as much of, up to 400 homes to verify if we have lead service lines.
So obviously, that means that residents are still consuming water with lead.
Absolutely, yes.
And is that part of the project on Wick Road between, is that Wayne and Cogswell? There was a 3-year furlough.
That was a transmission main. It was a redundant line for the city of Romulus, the city of the township of Van Buren, Ypsilanti. That line feeds all of these communities. There's a pump station that is by the North Point, the Wick and Vining intersection. That pump station, the line that comes out of it, now it's got 2 lines, so it can support the needs if that older line, which was built in the 40s, were ever to catastrophically fail.
Wow. So final question, 5%, your guesstimation as to how long it would take theoretically to replace all of those lines throughout the city of Romulus?
Too long.
Too long, okay.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, or is
The
it?
regulations are gonna change. We have a bunch of milestones we have to hit. So in 2025, we have to find as many as we can, and I believe the regulations are gonna change, that they're gonna ramp that up. Right now, the state tells us that we can continue our 5% replacement up to 2040. But I have a feeling that they're gonna shrink that up, on us. And that's something that every community is gonna have to face is, how do we pay for this?
And you indicated a grant or some facsimile thereof.
We were lucky we got a grant to investigate that was mandated by the state that all communities investigate. That had to go on their ratepayers. We were lucky, we were proactive. We searched out grants and we received one. But to continue to look for them, I don't know that we're gonna be so lucky to continue to have it federally funded, but it's something that we have to be prepared for.
Sure. And with the calamity, obviously, in Flint, we don't want a repeat of that.
Exactly.
In any of our communities.
And what I can tell you is there's a corrosion control program by the Great Lakes Water Authority that is working. So we don't have lead over the mandated stipulated percentage that Flint did. So in the distribution system for the Great Lakes Water Authority, the corrosion control program is working. Okay, there's an EPA threshold of 15 parts per billion.
15 parts per billion?
Yeah, we're way below that.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams.
Yes, up under, you're saying that, it's saying $3.2 million. The sewer debt will give $200,000, the water debt will contribute $60,000. So where is the remaining funds coming from? Grants?
For what? I didn't hear all those numbers.
The water and sewer fund that will start at Inkster Road is saying that entire project will be $3.2 million.
Correct, it's in the budget. It's part of the process that when we went through the rate study with Plant Moran, we knew that there was infrastructure that we needed to replace, and that is part of that whole component.
So the remaining of the $260,000 will come out of the general fund? That's what I'm asking, or the water fund?
So there are the sewer debt fund and also to the water debt fund. It collects monies for services when there are permits that are pulled. That is solely to help support the water and sewer fund. The $3.2 million project is part of that water rate study that Plant Moran helped us with the 5-year plan. So in order to help and fix the infrastructure, that's part of that plan.
Right. What I'm saying is, where's the 3.2 coming from outside of the 260,000?
It's within the
It's
water
coming
and sewer
from the
fund.
water and sewer rates.
But it wasn't clear, so that's why I was asking. where is it coming from? So you'll deduct the 260,000, and then the rest will come out of the water and sewer rate
Correct.
charges. Thank you.
John?
Yes, Mr. Wadsworth.
If I can, Roberto, people that aren't going to get their pipes changed in the near future, are we doing anything for these people, like water filters or anything like that, or educating them on what they can do to try to?
Yeah, well, we're educating our residents on, you know, the process of the protocol. If a lead sample comes in higher than it should, or at an action level where we do have to take action, we hand out a pitcher for filtration or bottled water in between sampling. We do as much as we can legally, because if you guys recall, a few years ago, there's controversy over what municipalities, the rest of the residents should be paying for the residents that have lead service lines. You know, there's a class action lawsuit against spending public money for private property use. So we're trying to navigate that situation. We do as much as we can, but I have a feeling that after 2025, we're going to be hearing about that public money spending, because we're all going to have a big problem. Once we find all these lead service lines, who's paying to get them out of the ground?
If a person comes in this town and buys a home, are they obligated to be told they have lead pipes or not?
Not by the municipality.
Okay, fine, thank you.
We wouldn't hide it.
No, he wouldn't hide it, but.
Through the
Yes,
chair.
Mayor.
Just while we're off in the weeds on the topic, Roberto, anything built now, you can't use the lead line in it anyways, any
Oh,
new
yeah,
construction.
absolutely.
They cease using that
Yeah, I
in
know
the
that.
60s.
Yeah.
So any new home, yeah, has
Okay.
plumbing material that's been approved and is lead-free.
Okay, thank you.
Good point, yeah. Thank you, Roberto.
Any further questions regarding the water and sewer? Okay. So moving along to our motor vehicle fund, which is 661.
We need to, can you speak up a little?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Moving along to our motor vehicle fund, which is 661. And I'll put that up on the screen for you. So our revenues are $2.6 million, and our expenses are 2.8. Within this motor vehicle fund is our fleet that we purchase. Also this is a internal service fund, so it's charged out for services to other funds to help support our aging fleet.
Aging fleet, excuse me,
Our aging fleet, so our fleet that we have.
of our cars.
Our
Yeah.
vehicles, yes,
You mean like those old Romulus police cars,
correct.
right?
Yes.
What
Some
year?
of those are housed in here. We do have vehicles purchased, and each year we've been buying so many vehicles to keep continuously moving our fleet along.
Okay.
If I can through the chair, just a quick comment on that. When I first took over as Department of Public Services Director, we did a fleet study in average vehicles, from assault vehicles to frontline main brakes to our bread truck that we have out there, to PD to fire. Average fleet vehicle was right around 35 years old, which is, you know, it's terrible to depend on that.
That's crazy.
Through, you know, working with the different departments and replacing on an as-needed basis. I think our average fleet vehicle right now is right around 13 to 15 years old. So we've drastically made a difference there. So, and this year we're buying a new assault truck for frontline guys to be out there and something, because not only are these equipment old and outdated, but now you get into work, we can't find parts for. So we've been pretty aggressive in making sure the frontline equipment, the vehicles that got to run at 2 a.m. for main breaks or assault emergencies or our first responders is, you know, they get top of the line equipment. So, and we'll continue to work on that creatively as we can.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next fund is Technology Services, which is Fund 664. Again, this is an internal service fund. This is charged for services, which gives services to other funds and support. We are estimating $997,000, almost $1 million in revenues. Our expenses are $987,000. Currently showing a fund balance of $281. And that is for all the software maintenance for tech services. Our next fund, is there any questions? Okay. Our next fund is our property and liability insurance. Currently, right now, I'm in the renewal process. Unfortunately, they're not aligned with our budget process. It's renewed on 7/1, so we start doing the preliminary documents. All the renewal process takes a little bit of time. We're estimating right now with the 5% increase that I mentioned before, so to cover all of the whole city, fleet, buildings, it's approximately $657,000. Our revenues are $684,000, which they are charged out to the departments for according to the piece of the property or fleet. Our next fund, if there's no questions, is our fiduciary fund. This is our retiree health care fund. We're currently showing right now as budget proposed, 2.3 million, and we're showing total appropriations at 2.1. So we're showing a decrease in expenses within the fiduciary fund for the retiree health care. That is it for all the funds.
Thank you.
In your packet, I wanted to talk to council regarding something that took place. So after the budget was presented, the prelim was presented, I think 3/28 I sent it out. We currently are under a state mandate to align with the uniform chart of accounts. So the conversion took place, which was mandatory, and there were some departments that changed and funds that changed. So when the final comes out, you will see the same numbers, however, you will see different funds. So a few of them changed on the fund level, most of the departments changed. However, we had until this fiscal year to have that completed, and we've made it. Unfortunately, it was before the prelim was sent out. So, Treasury is requiring this in the state.
So you said we'll have different funds?
Yeah, there's a few, and when I bring the budget back, I can send. I'm sorry?
So we'll know which, that'll be pulled out separately so we can see the.
Yeah, so I will have like the old fund, new fund, old fund, new fund.
Thank you.
Yep, and also departments too. There's not many funds that change, it's more on the department level. So for example, if your department was 528, it might have changed to 567.
The numbers of the department, that's,
Yes, but I will have the old and new. I've already started creating like a map of the old and new. I just didn't want to touch the prelim as presented because this is the snapshot of what I sent out. And next steps that we have is May 6th, the public hearing and preliminary budget. And then after that, May 13th, which is the final budget adoption that I have for the next 2 meetings.
so,
Yes, Ms.
so just with the, before the May 6th, and we have, as I was saying earlier about the court, the community workers or whatever they call them, the utilities. I was looking at the utilities even just for this week warrant. It's like 4,000 something, 5,000 just for one cycle. So the dollar amount that was presented to council when the court came before us, it's not adding up. So, you know, he needs to understand to give us numbers that make sense and not, because 1 month of and it says DTE on this one in the packet for today. So it's not adding up. It needs to be clear before, because you said on May the 6th, you'll come back, it's a public hearing, and then the 13th, you'll come back and it's, approval of the budget for the fiscal year, right?
Correct.
So that should be cleared up by then.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Mayor.
Thank you. Through the chair, yeah, that's a great point, so we can definitely make sure that we request that information from the 34th District Court to present before you. Just one quick comment. As Councilwoman Taylor noticed, there was a slight drop in unassigned fund balance this year, whereas last year we're at just over 10 million, and the decrease was almost $700,000. But we're still at 37%, so we felt comfortable presenting this budget to council. The reason for that has been an increase in spending in contracts for public safety, police and fire. I mean, for 8 years, we've been trying to stop and retain police officers in this community, and we're finally getting a handle on, we're stopping people leaving here for better jobs and better pay. So we're more competitive contract. Same with fire, we're working on one for the Teamsters right now, but also key infrastructure projects. We've given Roberto additional funds to get loose in our neighborhood streets. We know we're working on major roads, but also our neighborhood streets, so we got Roberto working on those. And, the infrastructure improvements of that, and also fleet, as I talked about. We had another frontline salt truck aging out and couldn't be repaired, so we had to make sure that we bought a new truck, because when it snows, we have snow emergency. We want to make sure we have fleets for our guys to get out there and clear the roads for our for our residents. So just clarification on why that was a little bit lower, but still comfortable with the 37% when the industry standard is 20 to 25, so.
And through the chair.
Yes, go ahead.
This is my 7th year sitting in on budget meetings. It's a week of, I love when you guys have these budget meetings. It helps me get behind the numbers. So I appreciate Maria, you do an amazing job. Victoria, saddened by Victoria. I know she's moving on to greater, but you guys did an amazing job with this budget and even going through that whole week of that process. I mean, this is my 7th year sitting in those meetings, and it's still a learning process. Now you're talking about a mandate with these charts. I said, I'm just starting to learn them, and now they're doing a mandate to change. So, but I get it. But it was just very enlightening. I appreciate you guys, and the department heads and the directors, y'all own your stuff. I'm telling you, I just sit there in amazement when I'm sitting in these meetings, and she run it like a taskmaster. I'm just saying. She don't play with them numbers. She asks questions, and she want to be clear. And the department heads and the directors, y'all do a great job presenting your budgets with the wants, needs, and the whole ritual you go to. You guys do an amazing job, and I enjoy coming and taking a week. I have a full-time job, but I got to be out for this week because I think it's important enough to get behind the numbers. You guys do a good job presenting them, and I'm getting to understand them a lot more as I sit in them, and I just want to thank you guys. You do an amazing job. You have a great team, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Something else, Mayor, or either the mayor, with the court, before we come back on the 6th. I know the court employees was offered years ago, decades ago, the MERS. We're paying for that, are we? Isn't it something, since we're responsible, and I would like to see that document where we agreed to say we were responsible. Isn't it something that they can change that? Because that's very expensive, MERS is. And if we have to pay it, we should have more of a say of what we're gonna pay and how much we're gonna pay. Especially since the dollar amount has really decreased from what the court has been bringing forth. And we can't always depend on our police officers being out there, because wonder if nobody is breaking the law as far as speeding. So we can't depend on that, and we can't push the police officers out there to just go out there and write tickets just to build the court revenue up. They're going to have to give, just like our city employees and everybody else had to give up a lot. So before the 6th, they need to really consider that, because, it's a time now you can't have your ice cream and cake and eat it too. So, and I know that MERS is very expensive. A lot of communities have moved away from MERS because it's a very expensive pension plan. Thank you.
Marie, healthcare carrier, who is that? So the audience, healthcare carrier. Is that Blue Cross?
I'm sorry.
The healthcare carrier, who is it?
So there's a couple different plans.
Okay.
We have McTwip, which is Blue Cross.
Oh, right. Okay. Another thing, in comparison to other cities, where do we stand as far as, I think that we're in pretty decent shape compared to other cities.
Regarding healthcare?
No, in general. financial status?
I haven't compared too many cities, but I can look into that and let you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
I measure it in our city, really, every city is unique.
Yeah,
I
I
really
know.
watch that fund balance within the general fund, the
Right.
mayor, and all of the, the directors and department heads in these meetings.
Right.
So I really pay attention to our city, but if you'd like, I can compare it to other cities and
Just, just
our
in general.
surrounding.
Right,
No,
because, like Councilwoman Talley said, the department heads here in the city of Romulus administration, I think you guys do a great job. I know other cities I've talked to, some different department heads, and I compare them with you guys, and you guys do a great job, each department you have in the city. So I'd just like to commend you also for the good work you're doing, and we work together and we can move our city forward. Thank you.
John?
Mr. Wadsworth?
If I can, Mayor, if I can bring up the 34th court again, everybody talks about they're going to talk to the state, talk to that. Is there any serious talks about trying to reform this court over there? Or is it just everybody saying we're going to talk about it?
It's a great point, but it's a huge animal for the state to overtake. But there's a lot of conversations going on in Lansing right now about the state coming over and running all the courts, because we're not the only municipality that's having an issue here.
They can have it.
There's a piece of legislation right now that I think further handcuffs our courtsmen's ability to collect fines and forfeitures, and our legal department's going through it right now, and then I'll bring it before council so we have an official opinion on it, because I think when they pass this legislation, they think of one thing, but they might not think of the negative impact it's going to have on the communities that house these courts. So we brought that to CWW and DCC next, and we'll bring it to the city council as well, once we find out what's all the pros and cons of this legislation. But we'll continue to watch it. And one other thing with the court, though, too, is there's a lot of different things with, you mentioned commensurate salaries. It's hard because we don't have the same jobs to base it off of. But we did meet with the court, and we showed them some of our practices and things that we do with HR, and they looked at our MERS package, and we found out in that process that the court employees do have MERS, but they don't pay into Social Security. I didn't even know that you could do such a thing. So it's they have one benefit, but they don't have another one. So we'll continue to get the information, and all great questions, and we're going to try to solve this thing. But yeah, the state is moving forward on it.
I've got one other question. Who negotiates their contracts over there? I mean,
What contract?
aren't they unionized? Or they're not unionized?
Oh, okay, for the employees. No, I don't believe they have a union.
So whatever the three judges want to give them is what they get?
I can't comment on that. I don't know for a certainty.
Okay. It's going to hit us. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any more discussions and comments from council? If there are none, that brings us to number 4, public comment. This is the portion of the agenda for those in the audience who would like to address the city council regarding tonight's special meeting agenda. If you would like to address the city council, please raise your hand and state your name. And after being acknowledged by the chairperson, approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Any additional time will be upon the consent of the chairperson.
Mr. Miller? Go Lions. Mr. Miller? All right.
Charles Miller. I appreciate Mr. Wadsworth, his attention to the court. I actually sat in Council President Williams's chair during the process. You probably remember, Mr. Wadsworth, when it was introduced that they were considering building a new courthouse. At that time, it was said that it wouldn't cost the citizens, and I'll quote, one red nickel. Now, my question to caveat on yours, if the bond is being paid by the court, I don't know what the bond is as far as the cost, but after the bond is paid by the court, do they have enough money to operate the court without tapping into the general fund?
So the issue we're having with the court finances right now is two operations. So they assess a FUF fee, a funding unit fee. So every transaction in the court, there's a fee captured that pays for the bond. So the people who use the building pay for the building. It doesn't come out of this. So if we didn't have the bond debt, they would no longer collect that fee. It would transfer right over to the general fund. So that's what we continue to watch, the FUF fee, the bond payment, and also the operational costs. So the FUF fee in the building is, knock on wood, progressing okay, and we'll continue to watch that closely. Operations is the issue that we're having. And it's really not even spending, it's the revenues that we've watched plummeted. So that's why we're trying to work on ways to generate revenues, but to your point, not generate revenues to where we're being excessive with law enforcement.
If the revenue plummets, okay, that means that the bond which is a first responder debt, that means that the bond has to be added to through the general fund to be able to respond to it.
Yeah, if there was a failure to collect FUF fee or there was a lack of business over there, so to speak, then we would be obligated to pay that.
I mean, everything, I certainly understand that COVID is used as a umbrella for everything that goes wrong, but that was over 2 years ago. And so certainly there should be some distinct changes in that revenue that's generated to the police department. So what you're saying is that we're not dipping into the general fund to be able to help support the court?
The court cost of the construction of the new building, correct.
Right.
But we are subsidizing operations over there right now.
That's what so in essence, because we are supporting the operation, the citizens are paying twice for the building. They're paying number one. This is where the problem came in when it first was announced by the former mayor that it would not cost one red nickel. But under the circumstance of reduced revenue through the police department, now the citizens are being tapped in at the general fund to be able to support the court. So my opinion is this. If this city, which revenue right now is around $25 million, if we cannot support that court, we need to look at another entity that is financially capable of supporting it easier than we are in this city, so that our citizens don't have to be double dipped on paying for the court. Now they're paying for the operation of the court when it was said it would not cost the citizens one red nickel. And Ms. Wadsworth, I believe you were sitting there and heard that comment, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to give my piece.
Any other comments from the audience? Ms. Walker.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Walker. I was listening to the portion where it says the GLWA is the authority for the water. Who places the readiness to serve and those two, is two things. They place something on the sewer and the water. I don't know what it's called, but it's a readiness to serve. Most of the time, that amount that they put on there is more than a water bill. I know it is for me. It's a readiness to serve, that's what it's called for the sewer and the water. And I would like to know who places those on there.
Okay, I did, are you, okay. So there is a calculation, and we went through a water study with Plant Moran, and there are components for your readiness to serve. I'm going to pull it up right now, so I can correctly, so, let's see here. So there's a couple components, so let's just say you have your water charge, you're ready to serve for water, and you have your ready to serve for water and sewer, and then you have your water charge. There's a couple different components that makes up your water bill. There's GLWA, the sewer portion is due up. So in order to maintain all of our assets, Plant Moran did this water rate study and said, okay, this is how much it costs for infrastructure, capital outlay, this is how much it costs for salaries, wages, there's all this component. And then it goes, all right, how much water consumption you use. What size meter do you have? So there's your fixed rate, and then you have your commodity rate. There's two different rates. The majority of it, is solely on usage too. So how much you use is how much you're being charged for, as well as the readiness to serve is to help maintain our infrastructure and other costs, operating supplies and costs, and anything that's in that whole rate structure.
Okay.
So Plant Moran does this based on the needs for the city, any current 5-year projections for water and sewer infrastructure, and then it's based on your meter size and consumption.
Okay, but you can even get those amounts if you haven't used any water.
Well, there are costs just for operating the system, yes.
Okay.
That is passed through us from GLWA and DUA, just to have the system, and it was presented as just to turn on the water.
Just to have water.
Just to turn the water on, yes.
Okay.
There's costs from them that are passed to us that we have to pass to the residents, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Walker. Any other comments from the audience? If there's no other comments from the audience, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Number 5 is adjournment. The time is 7:14.
So moved.
Support.
The motion by Mr. Wadsworth, supported by Ms. Abdo for adjournment. Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. We are adjourned. Our regular council meeting starts at 7:30.